So what about Amarillo? Well, our development agreement with the city provides that our focus is based on a number of projects. The multi-purpose event venue that will allow for minor league baseball. And why do you not call it a stadium? Because a stadium only has baseball. If you build a stadium, then you have 45, 60, 72 games per year. If you have a venue, which is now the common trend in minor league baseball, you have a facility which is utilized upwards of 150 plus events per year. Civic Center Hotel. The Civic Center needs to have the opportunity. One of the things that we heard when we were speaking to the chamber earlier this week was that there are a number, even in its current form, even if you do nothing with the Civic Center, there are a number of events that they don't attract. And the reason is when the media, or excuse me, when the event planners are looking for spaces to go, they look for hotels in close proximity so people don't have to be bused. Presently, with the opening of the Fisk, it's the only hotel downtown. It doesn't mean that the hotels that the city already has aren't quality hotels, because they are. It means their proximity impact to that, how close they are to the Civic Center impacts the ability to attract things to support the Civic Center. Urban lifestyle living is another thing that we're looking at. How can you create residences downtown? It is an opportunity you need to create to make it successful. Populations, people, at different times of day to make it effective. And so having residences downtown, now people told us in Waco it would never happen. You're going to lose your shirt. It's not going to happen. The downtown population of Waco before we started was less than 50. Just in the assets alone, the student housing, loft-level retail, and so on, there are over 600 residents now downtown. There are now student programs from Baylor downtown. So the common wisdom is not always proper. In Sugar Land, we were told it's too hot in Houston. You may have heard that. No one is going to sit outside and dine. And yet, movies, the outdoor events that we have, movies under the stars, Sugarland Superstar, the busiest times and the best business is for the outdoor seating that goes to the restaurants in Sugarland Town Square as they pay attention to the events. Common wisdom, no matter where you live. I started economic development in North Dakota, and that is a state that most people don't think exists. If it does exist, they're not going to go there. And no matter where you go, you can find good or bad about it. It depends on how you look at it. It doesn't. Anybody can be a critic. Anyone can find fault. What it takes is the creativity to realize the possible and to act upon it to make a success. But it has to be based on sound principles. The project goals between now and mid-August, we have to do a number of things. We have to evaluate feasibility of a ground-up 300-room hotel versus the redevelopment of the Herring property. We have to further evaluate and find operators for both the hotel and the multi-purpose event venue. We have to develop a project budget. We have to anticipate the public and private benefits as well as the potential costs. One of the things that we have to look at is determining a path of how to move forward and the strategy for how, if any public funding is involved, what does that involve in? When you say public funding, the first thing that comes to mind is property taxes. But think about this for a second. The city of Amarillo in 2009 had passed the legislature a law that allows them to take the hotel revenue tax that comes off this new hotel, the 2%, the 7% that the city collects, and apply that back to the hotel. That doesn't affect the property taxes. It says if you stay at that hotel, you pay a 7% local tax, and we can utilize that for the hotel. Additionally, from the experience that we've had in economic development, we've been talking to the city about creating empowerment zone. In the area, the revitalization zone, in downtown. What that does is it allows for you to access the state's portion of the hotel occupancy tax and sales tax and mixed beverage tax. So if you go to that hotel, there are streams of revenue that are already being paid for by the people who go there that can come back to be able to use for the project. Let's talk about the Herring for a second. There's the possibility, if you redevelop the Herring, to capture new market tax credits, to capture historic renovation tax credits. Those are sources of revenue that bring money to the table and impact No one. Now, when you get to the end, you know, one of the things that you hear is when people say, well, has the decision already been made? Well, no, it hasn't. Well, geez, why aren't you further along? Because we have to go through a process. And we will not recommend moving forward unless it makes financial sense for us economically or for the city. It has to make business sense. The city has to receive a greater benefit than the cost incurred. But also will not recommend proceeding unless you determine that it will not negatively impact the city with respect to safety, lighting, sound, and traffic. So our key factors for moving forward are clear communications. This is the first of 5 community meetings we're having across the city. This is the first set of meetings, because what we're doing is we're trying to bring everybody up to speed, tell you where we're at, where we're going, and how we're going to get there. Then we want to come back and have 5 more public meetings in late June, early July, after we've been through a process of selecting architects and engineers, selecting potential operators, evaluating the costs, and coming forward back to you, rather, with the information and asking your input. If there's things that you believe that we should be looking at, for example, some of the small meetings we've had, people have asked us to look at an aquatic center. They brought up Kids Inc. and said, hey, if Kids Inc. come back and could be involved in this project. So we need to have a clear communication strategy. We have specific goals, but we need to create synergies. We need to be flexible and listen to that communication strategy to see if there's other things that we can include. And like I continue to stress, it has to be a sound business premise. One of the things that you'll hear out there, unfortunately, in this political season, I've heard someone say that the minor league ballpark is $300 million. That is nonsense. It's a lie. Okay? Sugarland, Dave and I started the process for Entertainment District in Sugarland. They now just broke ground on a 7,000-seat minor league baseball stadium. The one that we've talked about, we've looked at through the market studies, is 4,500 fixed seats. So about a little more than half the size. Sugarland's contract is $27 million for something that's almost twice the size. So when you hear numbers out there, please take the time to validate them and validate the information. We don't know how much this project is going to cost because we haven't gone through the process. But I can tell you what is recent experience out there for projects that are larger than ones we're considering, and you can see that it's not consistent with some of the tribe that's been put out there. Strong public input throughout this process. In addition to these meetings, we've met with a number of folks, individual meetings, we've met with the chamber, we've met with the folks at Center City, we've met with the TERS, we've met with the LGC. There are going to be many opportunities for people to provide input. Our milestones. This week we started an RFP process for architectural engineering services. I'm happy to tell you that we interviewed 3 firms today, or 3 teams. In every instance, there was a local partner, a local architectural firm on that team. And it's very difficult as we go forward with the quality that's represented to make a determination is select somebody to go forward. We're looking for potential operators at the hotel, a multi-purpose event venue. We're doing the hotel site assessment, and we're also going to conduct a market assessment. We have undertaken a study with a company called Robert Charles Lesser, and they do market assessments across the country. They're out of Austin. They have offices across the United States. They're going to help us take a look at what other uses. There's already been studies on residential. There's already been studies on parking. We're going to look at the other commercial uses that might benefit from these types of developments. Talked about most final land plan. There's the land plan that you've seen with that market study where we come back and see what changes might need to be made that would make it of greater benefit to the city, develop the funding strategies, and present the conclusions to the city. As I mentioned, prior to the conclusions, recommendations being submitted to the city, we'll be back and with a number of public meetings to groups such as this to make sure we gain your input. This is a process chart that we put up when we were working with the city on the development of contractors. There are a lot of pieces up there. The stars are what's important. It demonstrates that throughout the process, There are a number of opportunities for public input, public presentations, public discussions. Our goal is to ensure that at the end of this discussion, this dialogue, when you're making recommendations to the City Commission, that no one can honestly say they didn't know this was going on, they didn't know anything about it, they had an opportunity. We want to make sure that we reach out, not just to the supporters, but also the detractors. We appreciate an intellectual dialogue that evaluates the opportunities. And so with that, I'm glad to answer your questions. You too, Leslie.